Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match reaction show. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 3. Arguably Villa's best performance and result of the season. Certainly one of the results of the season. I think that's an absolute fact. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletics' Jacob Tanswell. And this show is, as always, sponsored by Luke Roper. If you want to get 20% off everything they have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get your 20% off. I worked the game last night at TalkSport. Jacob, you were at the game, so quite a lot of people probably haven't watched 90 minutes of that game because it wasn't on television. Incredible night! What a brilliant result for Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably my most enjoyable game this season. I think I've left a lot of Villa games this season quite frustrated, or they may have got a positive result, but I just thought Villa had a bit more in attack. They had a few more gears to go up. But yesterday or last night, I think was the best performance of the season in terms of who they're playing against, beating a fellow contender, feeling like everything is now in sync. Everything feels a lot more fluid. And it feels like a game where you wake up the next morning and you're very happy with it. I know some of the games where you think, oh, Villa got the 3 points, but is his way of playing sustainable? Of course, Villa rode their luck at times in the first half, like every game you play at this level. But I think on the whole, Villa deserved to win that game, and I thought there was so many positives from that, and that's why I'm really happy this morning.
Yeah, it was a really good game. In fairness, the first half, both teams kind of played in transition quite well. I think Brighton gave Villa an awful lot of respect, really sat off them when they were building up from the back. And I actually think Villa didn't give Brighton the same respect. I think Brighton were trying to build from the back, and Villa pressed very well in that first half. Had a couple of moments, but obviously at half time it was 0-0. Got the first goal in the second half at a really good time, and that set Villa on their way in the second half and made it really difficult for Brighton. Obviously, there was the ludicrous penalty incident, which I still haven't got over. Obviously, it doesn't matter now, but I just can't see any world in which that isn't a penalty. So, well done, PGMOL, well done, VAR, and well done to the referee there. But let's go back right to the start, Jacob. The team selection. Rashford kept his place up top. No Marco Asensio. As in most big games, you would expect John McGinn came in and was one of the three playing off the striker. The Boubacar and Tielemans axis is a no-brainer. A little bit surprised. You obviously weren't, because I felt like something. You definitely knew that Pau Torres was going to start that game. I feel in the way you spoke on the show that we did yesterday. He came in for Mings. And I think one of the things I'm most encouraged about from yesterday is that I was half putting down Villa's new defensive resoluteness. That's a word. To resoluteness is a word. I was half putting that down to Mings and Consa renewing their acquaintanceship. That's not a word either. Renewing their
making up words
partnership.
this morning.
I've been up I was on TalkSport very early this morning and got home very late last night, so I'm not feeling all day. So Consa and Mings had obviously been playing together. I did worry that their kind of defensive level that Villa found might disappear if that was broken up, but Pau Torres came in seamlessly and was excellent. I think having another clean sheet, a team that's full of goals, really encouraging.
Definitely, and I think if anything, Pau Torres is probably a bit more scratchy on the ball rather than off it, which is obviously probably the opposite of his strengths. Really, I thought he was really good, but individuals don't necessarily change or move the dial that much in terms of in Emery's mind, because he wants the overall defensive structure to be better. I don't think individuals can really affect it too much unless you're having a huge drop off. For example, Emi Martinez being replaced by Robin Olsen's obviously going to shake it, but I think for Emery in the last couple of weeks, he's really focused on being more compact, avoiding transitions, being better in terms of not allowing Pau Torres or Tyro Mings to be isolated 1v1, to get the fullback nice and tight next to them. And if you notice how Villa defend now, I wrote it in the Ian Matson piece we did last week. Villa's fullbacks rarely go out to press the winger out wide. They if possible, they try and get the winger to do it, and they can stay in and right next to the centre back. And I think that closes the distances, and they look far better defensively. And now it's 5 clean sheets in 6 games. Villa. I think Villa pressed really well from goal kicks. There's a few times in the first half where Brighton, as they always do under the Zerbi, under Potter, as they do now, played out really well, and Matoma got in a few times down that left side. But on the whole, Villa picked their times when to press. I think there was times in the first half when the ball's on the halfway line, for example, where Emery was shouting at Marcus Rashford. Rashford even went over to the touchline at one point to get some pointers because Brighton were dropping in the left back deep, so they had a 3v2 in the build up. And if you look at John McGinn, he was kind of doing Rashford's running for him as well. He worked so hard. He was shuttling across the box, across the width of the back three. And he was really good out of possession, and I think there's a lot for Rashford to learn. I think he still needs to be better defensively, but Villa overall in their shape and in their structure out of possession was really impressive.
What's your opinion now on Rashford starting 2 games in a row in the central striker position? Yeah. Is that a kind of look into what we're going to see in the business end of the season? Do you think Ollie Watkins should be worried? Do you think Watkins comes back in and sometimes they play together, or do you think now? Yeah, there's a case that Rashford might be Villa's number 9.
I'll be honest, I haven't been too enamoured with Rashford on the left wing. He changes the structure too much. But when he was playing left wing, he would get the ball really out wide. And he wasn't in that left inside channel. He was too far out wide. And I think what he gave you good moments, but he changed the structure too much. Villa are best when they've got that left number 10 coming inside, Luca Dean or Matson overlapping, not inverting. And as far as I was concerned, Rashford was receiving the ball too out wide and not in these threatening areas. And I think for him to play, he has to play as a striker, not as a number 9. Villa don't really play as a traditional number 9, backs to the goal. An old-fashioned centre forward. They want that number 9, like Ollie Watkins at his best, to be in that left channel, making those runs. So I think if Rashford's going to play now, he's got to play as it's either him or Watkins for that starting place, really, because you need to keep that left number 10, be it Ramsey, McGinn, or Rodgers on that side. And I just think Rashford's, his threat reduces noticeably when he plays left wing because he's too far out wide. I think Emery even alluded to that. Was very interesting. He brought up yesterday in his post-match press conference where he said, we practiced him on Sunday as a goal scorer, as the centre forward. He scored 2, and now we've got to support Watkins to try and compete. So it suggested that it was either him or Rashford for that starting number 9 spot. But I think Rashford's getting better. I think there's still touches where he looked brilliant. That when he controlled that ball in that first half, I think it was Kamara's ball over the top, wasn't it? He controlled it beautifully and just cut inside, and the ball just shot went past the post. I thought that just showed his quality. I think overall he's still a little way to go, and maybe the finish was a bit scuffed. Maybe he meant it, but I think every week he's feeling better. He's getting better, and as Emery said the other night, he's certainly focusing on football now.
I thought in the first half, he's playing as a number 9, but he did drift out to the left quite well. I thought that Brighton didn't really know what to do with that, because when he did that, Villa have got 3 number 10s last night playing behind him. They were able to kind of fill the spaces that Rashford left and all take up really dangerous positions, and without being really free-flowing in the first half. Obviously, the goals came in the second half. I actually thought it was a really intelligent first half performance from Villa, both defensively and offensively.
Yeah, I think I tweeted in the first minute. It was really noticeable because Ramsey went into the inside the pitch, and usually the right back who's marking him follows us to a certain point, but then shouts to the closest centre midfielder and passes him on. He almost says, like, "It's your man now. I'm going to hold my position." Where Hinshaw followed Ramsey all the way in. He almost he became a midfielder himself because he was following Ramsey so central. And I can't remember who played the pass, but it gave space in that channel for Rashford to make that outside run. And Van Heck was 1v1 against him. And I thought, okay, if that's happening in the first or second minute, that's obviously a plan for Brighton in terms of Hinshaw stays with Ramsey. But it then gives Rashford brilliant space and in the 1v1 opportunity into that left channel, because obviously Ramsey's vacated the space and Rashford can get in the perfect area that he's always been brilliant throughout his career in. So that was really interesting. I think there's a few times where really threatened in that channel. And those type of movements is Emery's bread and butter, isn't it? The left hand coming in, and then Watkins, Duran to a lesser extent, would make that run off the centre back into that left channel, and Rashford's perfect at that. So really nice. I think we saw a little bit of what Emery and Villa were great at last season in terms of on transition, but then we saw the quality of the January signings as well. So very, very impressive.
Yeah, I do find it interesting with Emery. Obviously, we always kind of like more or less will play the same shape, but there's always these subtle differences, and it does feel like we're kind of bounding into a new evolution, a slight evolution of this side now in how he's setting up and how he's doing things. Cash was bombing forward in the first half. Kamara obviously dropping in to make that back three. I thought we were really effective in the first half without being clinical or without creating loads of chances. Just managing the game, feeling out the game. I mean, how many games up until recently was it? Oh, the first shot from the opposition goes in. That seems to have gone now. Hopefully, that seemed to be a thing of the past, and we just look a bit more self-sufficient. We look like we were managing games better. We definitely look more dangerous going forward, more resolute at the back. I feel like everything is starting to just click together at the right time, with things going well, of course, in the first half. We didn't kind of take the refereeing and the VAR with us in that going well. It's kind of sphere, and I still don't know. Once the ref hasn't given it, I still don't know how VAR can't look at that and just say, "Look, mate, it's a clear and obvious error." I've no idea how that is not given as a penalty.
Dan, I know we have a few Barneys over refereeing decisions and me maybe sticking up for the officials a little bit and trying to find their point of view and their perspective, but that was the most stonewall penalty and the most obvious example of VAR actually doing their job and overturning an incorrect decision you'll ever see. I was looking at it and VAR checking, and I was thinking, there's actually no point to go to the monitor. Taking too much time. Let's just do it quickly. Let's just say it's a penalty. Let's do it. Everyone there, even the most hardened Brighton journalists and supporters near me, they bleed Brighton. Were like, yeah, fair enough. That's a penalty. So I could not believe it when they didn't give that. I think if you see on the centre on the halfway line and Ramsey's brought down like that, that's a yellow card and a foul. I don't understand. The only thing I can even think of is that the ball's too far away and Ramsey wasn't in control of the ball. It was going to go up for a goal kick.
That wasn't the reason it was given.
No, exactly. So I just genuinely couldn't believe it. And I think that's the worst decision Villa have been on the end of. Like I said before, I find debating referee and decisions monotonous. It's boring. But that was shocking. And I still, even half an hour after the incident, I was kind of in disbelief.
I mean, obviously, I was on TalkSports YouTube, so I posted my reaction on social media. So when it wasn't given up, absolutely staggered. Everyone around me was saying it was a penalty. They were in disbelief as well. Obviously, they got no fighter in that fight. It was just a ludicrous decision and a ludicrous use of VAR. Once again, VAR showing that they don't really want to go against the referee unless they absolutely have to. And obviously, it doesn't matter now. It's academic. Villa have won the game at a canter in the end. But in the magnitude of that game, the way the Premier League set in the race for Europe, not getting that could have been absolutely huge.
Definitely.
And Hinchwood's been booked as well, by the way. That's another aspect to it.
Yeah. I thought that was probably the consideration whether he'd be sent off. But you saw Emery's reaction in the Nottingham Forest away game for the tug on Morgan Rogers as well. These type of games where you're against contenders for the Champions League place, you were £1 million at stake. If Villa didn't win that yesterday, we all know what the talking point would have been this morning. We all know what Sky Sports would have ran with. Even probably my match piece would have been about that. But I'm sure we'll have Howard Webb on this Michael Owen show.
Michael Owen tweeted it was a penalty, so I'm looking forward to that. If
Michael Owen's tweeted it's a penalty, then it must be. But yeah, it's just bizarre. I really don't understand. I've said it so many times. I really can't stand VAR, and I dislike it even more now because it should have been there as a saving grace, as a blanket for
what it's there for.
And it made it worse. We're actually not really blaming the referees much nowadays. It's more VAR. We're like, the referee, yeah, okay, he makes the decision badly. But then you've got cameras. You can slow it down. You can take ages. And it's still, you get the wrong decision. I just can't believe the standard of refereeing and VAR. It's just so boring. It takes so long. Everyone's home so late. And it's still bad. Just get rid of it.
Yeah, Hinchwood looked very, very sheepish immediately.
I'm shocked he didn't get subbed. I'm shocked he didn't get subbed at half time.
I thought he'd be gone at half time as well.
Not only the yellow card, but like I say, he was getting dragged and pulled by Rashford and Ramsey's movement. He didn't know where he was for half the time. I was shocked he got subbed when he did.
Yeah, obviously he came out for the second half, and Villa came out for the second half with absolute aplomb as well. Early goal in the second half in the context of that game is absolutely huge. Morgan Rogers with his left foot, that ball over the top. I'm not sure he could do that again. Maybe he could. Maybe I'm being unfair, but just the absolute perfection of it on his wrong foot. It's like excuse me, I'm not Greg Evans, so I'm not heavily into my golf. It's like a tee off shot.
I was going to say it's more of a sandwich. He absolutely dug that one out. I thought it was great. He didn't really do much in the first half. You know, he's 17 touches. I think only Rashford a few out of all the players on the pitch. Was struggling to get in the game really. Most of Villa's best attacks were from the left side, the opposite side, and so was Brighton. To be fair, but then he just produces that. Unbelievable. The weight of pass was great because it just caused Verbruggen all sorts of issues. He didn't know if it were to come out sweep or retreating in the end. He didn't really do any either. And maybe it's symbolic. I said in my piece actually that the fortunes of Villa are changing, that they can now score from an opposition corner rather than the shoe being on the other foot. So it was, I think it was 9 seconds from when Martinez rolled the ball out to Rodgers and Rashford scoring. So very, very incisive.
Yeah, Rashford, don't know whether he kind of meant that finish. If he did, it's great work and really, really quick thinking. But the crux of it is he's gone through 1-on-1 and he scored it, and that's 3 goals in the space of a few days for Marcus Rashford. Looked like he really enjoyed it as well, a knee slide in front of the travelling supporters.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, he's not one to show his emotions too much, is he? But I think that really meant a lot to him. Obviously, first Premier League goal for however long, first one Premier League goal for Villa to complement and support the 2 he got in the FA Cup. And yeah, it's always great when you score, especially in front of the fans. But I think for Rashford, he's feeling a lot better in himself. He's obviously now eventually made the move down to the Midlands. I think he's becoming far more professional. If you look at Emery's coaching staff and everyone who I talk to, even at Villa, outside of Villa, they say they're obsessed. They want to know what every single thing that every player is doing. Emery said it the other day. He said he wants his players to focus even more than 70% on football nowadays. He wants them to be obsessed with it towards the end of the season. He wants them to just to sleep, to stay with their family, and he even made an example, maybe a pointed one to some players. He said, if you're going to London, that's not you resting. You've got to stay where you are, and then all your focus comes in when you come into Bodymore, whether be it through analysis sessions or on training. That's where your energy should go. So I think Rashford's doing that very well. He's really switched on. But the thing with Rashford, and the challenge has always been with Rashford, is he goes through these big peaks. He has these runs of form, but then he tails off and things go bad quite quickly, quite dramatically. He needs to make sure he stays at this level and gets better for the running.
Yeah, I just don't think we can knock him though.
No.
So far, done pretty much everything that's been asked of him. You know, it sounds like doing everything Emery's asked of him as well. I've got to say, just hearing what you've just said about Unai Emery and the way he's speaking, and just watching Villa on the pitch at the moment, it is feeling a little bit like the end of Emery's first season, where it all kind of came together and Villa got in that rhythm and they kept winning games and they did enough to get qualification for the Europa Conference League by finishing 7th. It was a smaller pool of players then.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's got an embarrassment of riches at the moment in every single position. To be perfectly honest, the squad depth is absolutely frightening with everyone fit. It must be so difficult to pick a team. We try and predict the team every week, and we get it wrong. But I am just getting a sense and a feeling that it's clicked into gear and it's all coming together. And Villa have had some great results and some great performances across the last 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, exactly. I think I wrote about it last night in terms of what Villa and Emery have tried to do and the methods they've used to try and ensure they peak now. If you remember the last time they went to the Amex last season, Villa were on their last leg. Rodgers got injured. Olsen was in goal. Cash was playing right wing. Konsa right back, where the position he gave the foul away from. They literally had nothing in there, and it was 1-0 defeat. But really, Villa were never in that game, and they were limping towards stumbling over that finishing line, weren't they? They had to rely on Tottenham losing 4 or 5 games in a row, really. And although that's a brilliant achievement, I don't think it was lost on Emery and the management and how they approach this season in terms of peaking at the right time. That they need to finish the season strong, like they did 2 years ago. And now you've got a point where players are coming back fit. The rest that they've always done at the back end of 2024, when individual players would be given days off, when they'd have fewer training sessions, more walkthroughs on the grass, lower intensity. Emery always brings a whiteboard to games, and where he writes capital letters rest. He wants to be rest mentally, physically, and he thinks right now, in this month where it's such a defining month, a defining week, that they're ready, they're at their best physically and mentally, which a lot of teams at this stage of the season aren't. They've got a lot of injuries, they're limping like Villa did last year, where Villa feel they're just coming onto the final bend and at their best. So a very, very, I think, big win yesterday, not only in terms of the league position, but to remind themselves and demonstrate that actually, yes, we are strong, we are physically, like the manager says.
I wonder if looking across the kind of 3 ends of seasons now for Unai Emery. If it does suit Villa and this group of players and the way that Emery is his mentality and always a bit of an underdog, I wonder if it does suit being the team that's chasing.
Yeah,
Rather than last season when we were the team that, we had something to lose. We were there. We were in
yeah.
that position that we wanted to be, and we had to try and hang on to it. Obviously, we had horrendous injuries, and the squad wasn't deep enough now. But I do think there's something in the fact that we've got something to aim for. We're chasing something. We know we need to get results, and we need to get a rhythm, and we need to get some consistency. I do feel that's suiting Emery and the players.
Yeah, and also there's a chase and pack this time, isn't it? It's that gaggle of teams that all feel like they can get into the top 4, top 5. Where last season it quickly became evident that it was only going to be between Tottenham and Villa, really. And Tottenham were the ones chasing. For Villa were always looking over their shoulder and maybe a little bit anxious because of it. But now Villa have been pretty average all season in the league. There's not really that expectation for them to get top 4, top 5. Of course, it's huge and it quite dependent on Villa's finances and how they've set the club up from a financial perspective. But from the broader public, not many think Villa can get a top 4, top 5. Where I think that quite suits Emery going under the radar.
Yeah, and Villa 1-0 up through Rashford's goal. They're then bringing on their club record signing a £50 million midfielder in Amadou Onana. They're then bringing on their top scorer of the last few years, of the last 4 years, Ollie Watkins for Marcus Rashford. Red Sea Tillerman's get a rest for Onana, by the way.
Yeah.
And then they're also bringing on a little player called Marco Asensio, who seems to know where the back of the net is. Yet another goal for him. Just the way he seems to just manipulate space and find space, and just time just seems to stand still when he has the ball or he's lining up a shot. Do you think Brighton might feel a little bit aggrieved with the Watkins collision with the centre back? If I'm to be perfectly honest, but that is a hell of a finish from Asensio. It's a great ball from Cash and a great run and pick out from Rodgers as well. I don't think Rodgers had his best game, but he's come away with 2 assists, which is great. Asensio, though, just when he gets anywhere near the kind of edge of the penalty box, anything edge of the penalty box or further forward, you just back him to score. He's so precise.
Yeah, I think important to mention Matty Cash there, because just before the second goal, he was looking over to the bench and he was stiffening up on his calf. But he whips a fantastic ball down the line for Rodgers to chase, and that obviously sets up the goal. Asensio, everyone I spoke to says he's a freak in training in terms of I can imagine they haven't seen a quality like him. I think they obviously think Rashford's obviously brilliant, but in terms of his Asensio's intelligence and seeing things 2 steps before anyone else, they say he's unbelievable. And I think some of the young players have been blown away by him. And when that ball got obviously cut back, a lot of the time you might snatch it or you lean back and it goes over the bar, where he's just got technique where you never thought you obviously thought he's going to hit the target. And Villa were actually guilty of not hitting the target enough in the first half, where they just got the ball, head over the ball, bang, corner, no chance for Verbruggen. I think he's a sense for 15 million. It's almost becoming close to a guarantee to buying him. Really, I think one of the reasons why he didn't start last night is because if you're obviously going to drop Kamara into that back 3, you need McGinn to almost act like a double pivot at times, where that's not really Asensio's game. Asensio wants to stay higher up the pitch, where McGinn obviously can receive the ball a little bit deeper. So that's one of the reasons. But again, he was almost like a finisher, wasn't he? 1-0 up, Villa were just steadily gaining control, and you needed that telling moment of quality to kill the game off and kill Brighton off. And Asensio delivers it all the time.
Yeah, and Villa I got the sense again that Villa weren't going to chuck this away. That there wasn't going to be panic stations. Brighton weren't going to get a goal. I thought Villa saw the game out pretty well, even in the 10 minutes of stoppage time. I mean, Marlon came on as the last sub, and I was kind of laughing, saying, "Oh, Marlon's getting his customary stoppage time substitution run out here." Feeling really, really sorry for him. He's only had brief cameos, but everything I've seen from him, I've really, really liked. It's really difficult to see how he gets into this team at the moment with the way the front players are firing. But he got a sniff at goal, and he took it. McGinn kind of dribbling into the arc, and he's running into the centre of the pitch with the ball. More ball makes its way to Asensio, who's way past to Marlon. He's really good, but Marlon's still got a lot to do there. There's a defender to get past, a goalkeeper to get past, and that is a ferocious finish.
I really like Marley. He's threatened that type of finish for a few games now.
Yeah, he has.
Getting that ball out of his feet and just driving it low to the far post. I think he's been really good. And again, it's quite nice actually in a way that Villa had 10 minutes of additional time just for him to see a bit more of him and
get a run out.
Yeah, actually get a bit more of a run out. He must be getting fed up of having to do those box runs after games with all the unused subs. But Yeah, I thought he was really good. He what he does is he just gives you a directness, doesn't he? Where even if he plays 5 minutes or half an hour, he'll just run at opposition, and he's got head down, scurrying across the turf. I think he's going to be a really good player next season. And with PSR and potentially players in the forward positions leaving, then you'd hope that he'll get more of a run out there next time.
Yeah, I think it's great to see shades of Robin Olsen against Brentford with the players pushing him towards the
Yeah.
crowd at the end of the game. But it's a big moment for him. Must be a relief for him. He has had a rough ride since he joined the club, so that goal will mean a lot to him, as will the reaction from the crowd singing his name at the end.
Yeah, definitely. You saw they were singing his name. I think they need a bit more work on, a bit more of a creative song for him.
Chance they work more. They really do.
But I think it showed how much it meant to him. But also, I think it was an acknowledgement from the players and the staff that he had a really maybe unfair time of it at the start, obviously being excluded from the Champions League squad, not playing as much as he thought he would. But maybe it also shows how popular he is as well with the players, and how well he's kind of knuckled down and taken it and been a good squad member. I think naturally his adaptation has been slower than they thought it would be, and Emery's admitted that because of the lack of game time. But there's a reason why Emery pushed for him for 3 windows. He may not be the marquee Rashford signing, but should Rashford not sign next season and another attacker leaves, then hopefully he'll get a lot more game time.
Yeah, Davey Ladd's right here to point out Disasi as well coming on to help see the game out. Another great closer, and that's the thing now. Villa have just got so many options. I think players being on the bench won't be too upset because they'll just see the impact you can have from the bench. You can make yourself a hero in this Villa side coming on as a substitute with 30 minutes left to play. I mean, you can make yourself a hero with 5 minutes left to play as Marlon did. But there's just such a good vibe around this squad at the moment. They seem really, really together, all pulling in the same direction, which maybe wasn't the case when certain individuals were at the club who've since departed to greener pastures. And I say greener in terms of finances. It's just a better squad now, a better team, more togetherness, and you could see what it meant to them all at the end. And Villa have got a really big. They're in the midst of a really big 10-game period here, 10-day period, sorry, and they've beaten Preston and got themselves to the FA Cup semi-final. They've gone to Brighton a few days later, won 3-0 at the Amex, which is a stupendous result. Forest and PSG to come to see off this 10-day period, which are obviously huge games. But we go into Saturday feeling good, and I fancy us to get a result against Forest.
I think it's been very difficult. I think how Forest plays is kind of a kryptonite for Villa in terms of they're going to sit back. It's going to be at a low tempo. I think both teams are quite happy to have it at a low tempo, like it was in the reverse fixture, where not really much is happening. But Villa have, and I'm sure Emery will be working on Villa's positioning in possession in terms of our players in the right position to stop counter-attacks, to stop Elanga breaking, to stop their front three from getting in those positions between full-back and centre-back and just ripping the back line apart. And conversely as well, Villa have got to find a way of breaking down a mid to low block and getting crossed in a box where Forest's centre-backs can't just hoover them all up. So I think if Villa, I say it in most games, I feel like I'm a broken record, but I do think if Villa can set the tone early, set the stall out, I think they can win the game. I think the longer it goes, the more it plays into Forest's hands.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a really good atmosphere at Villa Park on Saturday, tea time game. I think people will be well up for it. I think it's a really intriguing fixture. It's probably the fixture of the weekend, I would say, if you look at the game, despite there being a Manchester derby. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one, and we will, of course, preview it on this channel tomorrow. So do watch out for that. I think that does us, Jacob. So thank you very much for joining me. I haven't been on the Athletic this morning, been too busy, but I assume you've got to read there.
I have as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, who's this?
Sorry about that. I have. Yes, it's obviously like I say, it's about how Villa and Emery's coaches have tried to ensure Villa peak at the end of the season, which it looks like they are now. So yeah, go over read that, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Saturday. It feels like we're on a roll now, doesn't it? Games are coming thick and fast, and yeah, we'll go to Forest, or they'll come to us, get 3 points there. Then go to Paris, back to the wall, 1-1 performance, and then Villa are almost there to the semi-final. That's the way I look at it.
That's a very great way of looking at it. So thank you again, Jacob, for joining me today. And thank you to those that have joined us live in the chat as well. Plenty more content to come. And Jacob and myself did a show yesterday looking at some of the youth players and talking about Jacob's trip to Real Union. So do go back and listen to or watch that if you haven't done so already. As I mentioned, there'll be a preview tomorrow for the Nottingham Forest game. So watch out for that. Subscribe with your post notifications on YouTube. Leave a comment as well and give the video a like. And if you're listening via audio platforms, 5-star reviews if you can, leave a review if you can, or leave us a nice comment. That would all be appreciated. They're all little things that help the channel. So if you are enjoying the content, if you could do those things for us, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, have a great rest of your Thursday. I was very late this morning, so Jack has probably got to rush off, so I'm going to let him go. But only one thing left to say: up the Villa.